Books are like tomatoes. If there's one rotten tomato in the basket, you better remove it, or soon the whole basket goes bad. What is up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we go over best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I'm one of your hosts, Coach Willie Blake. I'm here with my other co-host, Mr. Ian Stermer, and the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. Jon Kovach Jr. And today is a special episode because we're doing Rotten Tomatoes. We're going into Rotten Tomatoes for the books that finished off 2025 as well as the ones in Q1 of 2026. And these books, we're going to go over books such as Who Ate My Cheese, such as The Alchemist and the Art of War, and several others. So without further ado, Jon, I'm actually going to turn it straight to you to tell us which book are we starting out with and that we're going to give our Rotten Tomatoes ranking to.
Well, I'm shaking the dice and what book we're going to start with our ratings for is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That is a classic. We did this book a little while ago. I think we've read it like several times because we love this book. And I'm excited to hear your ratings on it. For those who haven't read this book, it's a classic. I mean, you truly need to read it. It's one of the first books you probably should pick up when it comes to reading books in personal development and growth. Most people have heard it, and the magic number 7 is a great number. I love this book for many reasons, so I'll kick off my first score while you guys prepare your scores. And, out of a scale from 1 to awesome, meaning 10, I give this book an 8.1. It's just tipping over the edge of an 8.0. It's solid. It's going to prove it's going to test the growth of time, because it really does it really does share principles that we can all apply for years and years and years to come. And I highly recommend this book to anyone. And anytime someone's struggling with something like oh man, I just feel out of whack, with social media and all the crazy news going on, it's an easy recommendation to say, hey, fear not. Here you go. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People can change your mindset on what you're going through right now. And so it's just an easy no-brainer. No doctors needed. This is the prescription. Here you go, 8.1. How about you, Ian? What would you rate The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey?
Yeah, well, I'm going to build on something you said, and I would say this is the book I would recommend, the first book I recommend to anybody looking at improving themselves. And I hold this up as the standard. If I look at all the books I've read and what is the single best book out there, all around, this is it. And I'm kind of debating, do I want to say this is a perfect 10? Or do I want to always leave room open for something else? But I'm going to say at this point, if I measure books against anything, this is what I would measure them against. So I'm going to say this is the standard, and I'm going to put it at a perfect 10.
Wow, yeah. Everybody, we got our first 10!
Oh, incredible stuff. See, Jon, now we got to find your 10 book, because I have Outwitting the Devil for my 10. Ian has this one, so we got to find yours soon.
We might know today. It's we might. I'll let the listeners get excited about that, but we just might find out.
We just might have it for my ranking for this book. I was right there with you, Jon. I was right there of giving it a solid 8, because it is such a great book. It was the first book that my late grandpa-in-law told me to read before I married my wife. He's like, you got to read this and actually start applying it before you can marry my granddaughter. I'm like, okay. So, and I've already read it a time before that, but read it again. And it's just like, man, just the solid book, the timeless principles that it has of being proactive, seek to understand, being understood, synergy. Like there's so much that goes into it. And because of that impact, as I thought more about it, I'm like, you want to know what? This book has made more of an impact and has just such solid info that I'm going to bump it up. And I'm going to give it a solid 9 for myself.
Wow.
And that's coming from the Simon Cowell of Rotten Tomatoes here.
All right, guys. Well, if you're giving that a 9, I'm going to punch this one in. Wow. I think we can all understand. I mean, just kicking the episode off today with a high boom, 8.1, a 10, and a 9. This book by far exceeds all of the books in our top 10. And ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We have officially found our new number 1 ranking. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is just, like Ian said, one of the standards for personal development. So that's awesome.
The standard, not one of.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I might need to drop my score so that my favorite book is number 1.
No, you said it. It's already there.
I was going to say, Outwitting the Devil has been undefeated up until this point, and it's been a year, and now we have a new leader, which is awesome. I love seeing that because, again, ladies and gentlemen, these Rotten Tomatoes episodes are just our opinions. And we really just, like, we want to share with you open and honest opinions about how we love, feel, or maybe not nearly as love as much. And these are just reflections of our ratings, but we're comparing golden apples to golden oranges. These really are the cream of the crop and top professional books. So I love it. We already are kicking off with drama. This is awesome.
Yeah, just like you said, like these books are the cream of the crop that we go over to. There's a reason why they're bestsellers. Like if you take the spectrum of books and just focus on like the top 10%, that's where we're focused on. It's just like our ratings of whether it's a 2, a 4, a 9, or a 10, it's in that top 10. So any of these books that we go over are fantastic books to read, just in and of itself compared to everything else. So,
oh man, that's exciting.
John, tell me as we spin that roulette wheel, what's the next one we're going to?
All right, I'm going to ask Willie, pick a card, any card, and that'll be the next book.
I'll pick the third one over, the one with the receding hairline right there.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Oh, congratulations. We are going to be talking about the next book, which is Who Moved My Cheese? This book is by Spencer Johnson, and it's such a classic, a great read. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about it? Ian, I know you and I kind of read and dove deep into this book together on several episodes, and it's just a classic tale of 3 mice and there's their epic survival story based on mindset.
Yeah. So this was an interesting book for me, and a lot of times you hear people say, I read it before and then I read it again and I just got something completely different out of it. And I think this is one of these books that, depending on where you are in your life and what's happening when you read it, it's going to have a different impact. Mm-hmm. And I could see this having a huge impact if I was at certain points in my life. And when I read it, I was not at one of those points in my life. And as a result, I didn't connect a lot with it, to be honest. It's one of these things that I know there's something great in there that it didn't hit me this time. So this is hard. I don't want to give it a low rating because I know if I was at a certain point, I would have said, oh, this is amazing. But I got lost in the characters and why is this happening here? And had a harder time resonating. But I know there's great principles. I know it could really help. So I'm going to put it at a 7.
7.0. That's awesome. I'll let's see. Willie went last time, so I'll have Willie go next. Willie,
Go.
what are your thoughts on Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah, Who Moved My Cheese? This was actually the second time I read it. First time was several years back when I was working for a property management company, and the boss did this like whole once a month book club thing, and Who Moved My Cheese was on one of those. And I remember I just love this. I love the stories aspects of these books, like leadership and self-deception, the go-giver. Like they just put these lessons into a story, and I love it. Also in the book, though, it didn't really like stand out to me too much. There were some great golden nuggets here or there, and especially when I read it, it was like good. But overall, I'd just say it's a decent book. It's a decent book to go to. So I'm right next to Ian. I give it a 7 as well.
7. All right. I see a theme here, and I'm excited to continue that theme because I too am giving it a solid 7. It's not my highest score, and it's not my lowest. But when I read this book, it reminded me of the first time I picked up Leadership and Self-Deception, expecting a full-on nonfiction layout. I go straight into storytelling. And so I forget that I'm reading a nonfiction book on personal development, and I get pulled into the story. And there were times where I literally squeaked out loud, like, no, Hem and Haw, don't do it. And I wanted them to each make the right choices and be progressive and look for new signs of survival, right? But I realized that, like Ian said, like you have to be in a certain place at a certain time. And when I recommend this book to people, it's usually because they're searching for answers and they're probably feeling stuck, and it resonates with my TEDx talk a little bit. So it's a really, really great book, but I give it a solid 7. With that score in mind, 7s all around. This book is coming in at number 19, which is super cool. And it comes up with a total score of 21. And hey, this is the cleanest high score we've had in a while, which is solid 7s around. So magic number 7, incredible. I give this book a really great rating. It's just a great read. I should have grabbed all these books off my shelf at some point so I could show them, but hey, we'll do it in the after edits. But a really, really great book. So let's move on to the next book if you guys are cool with that. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to go out of order just because I want to save a couple. But I'm
confused now.
What's that?
I'm confused now. You're out of order.
Well, out of order chronologically. Oh. But let's do the next book, which is called A Brave New World by Alex Huxley. This was a book that Ian and I were like chatting, like, what's the next book that we should read? And we were kind of looking for a different take. We moved directly from Who Moved My Cheese, and we're like, let's stick to this like storytelling ideal philosophy type stuff. And I was also in a deep rabbit hole dive of just world history. And so this was a really great one in alignment with just some changes in the world. And I love that stuff. So let's jump right on in. I know that Willie read this. I'm going to
go first on this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, you read this separately from our episodes. What was your feeling and rating on the book?
Yeah, so full transparency, I read it a little bit. Just before this, I had to reread the summary because I did not remember really much of what went on. And yeah, I had the story, but nothing stood out. It was really like more philosophical and going into it, and yeah, just all that combined together. So I'm going to read the whole thing, and maybe my score will change, and we'll like update it at a future Rotten Tomatoes. But as of right now, I'm going to put it at a 3.
3, got it. Love it. Yeah. That is. Let me just.
And again, it can change because I didn't read through the entire book because you both did this at a time where I wasn't reading it at the time, and so. It could change. It could change. We'll update it at a rotten. Let's change it at a rotten time, at a future time for a Rotten Tomatoes. But for right now, I'll send it as a 3.
Awesome, and that is not Willie's lowest score given. So, guys, just wanted you all to see that and know that. But I'll jump in next, and we'll leave Ian best for last. On a similar note, when I read this, I made the mistake of downloading the wrong book. And when I was reading it, I was like, Ian, I just don't get it. And he's like, did you pick up the right book? And I was like, I hope so. And I'm into another book. And so I was already in a place of frustration, but I still gave it the benefit of the doubt. And once I dove in, it was a thick read on an intellectual and philosophical level. And I was way out of sorts mentally to take that on. So with a reset of mindset, I read this book. And once again, I had a hard time diving into its philosophical concepts, but I loved the perspective and I loved the alternative the what ifs if this had happened in the world and world history. And I loved that. It took me back to a place of like, why do I watch certain TV shows or, so forth. So my short answer is I gave this book a solid 5.5, one of my lowest scores I've given, due to just my resonation with it and the timing and just where it's all about. So that's my score. However, it is a great book. Ian, what did you think of A Brave New World?
Okay. I love this kind of book. I love going into the philosophy and the what if. And I believe this is one of the most important books written in general about really a warning about the future and what the world could become. I put this up with 1984 and A Clockwork Orange as the trilogy of what to be afraid of in the future with these three books. It's been a long time since I read it until we redid it here. And I looked at it with a little different perspective. And I kind of said, okay, as an entrepreneur, how does this all fit in with this warning, a dual warning of communism when it was written and really a corporate takeover of the world. Huxley meshes these two together. I think it's a super important book. I think there's a lot of lessons in it that we can put into our own life and into business as I look at this, and a huge warning about the future and individual rights and liberties. So I am going to give it, as I've said that, I'm feeling like raising my score. I'm going to do that. I'm going to give it a 9.
Great.
Because I think this is such an important book that I would put it as a must read for everyone, regardless of personal development and business and entrepreneur that we kind of focus on. But I think people need to be aware of the warnings that he gives in this book. I think is super, super important for everyone in the world. So I'll give it a 9.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And this book,
we'll have a discussion later, Willie, about this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Love the philosophies. Currently one of our top 29. It's not our lowest rated book, but it's definitely just a great read. And I agree with you, Will or Ian. It has just a lot of contextual thinking opportunities for readers, and I love those types of books. They're basically like contextual and also historical thrillers in a way that we have to think a lot about what the possible outcomes could be. And I mean, it's a bold statement. I mean, he's rolling the dice and saying like, look, this is where things could go in 50 to 100 years from now, and he's not too far off if you look at the world now. And it's getting more and more true. And so I highly recommend you guys go grab A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So Huxley, wow, did I say his name right? Let me make sure I give him the Alex Huxley. There we go. Make sure I give him the benefit of the doubt. All right, we got 3 more books to go through, you guys. This is awesome and going well so far. Now I'm going to change it up because I don't want to end on a perceived potential low. We got something looming in the background. We all kind of know it's coming. So I want to get it out of the way. Let's pull out the red carpet for this one. This is our most recent book. And this one is called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'll lead things off with this one. Joe Dispenza, I've heard incredible things about him, his work, his books. I've met the guy in person. He has a aura and a presence. He's just one of the top people in personal development, in kind of the woo-woo and mixed with science. Originally a scientist, he begins the book with, I would be rejected and hated by my colleagues in the world of science just by writing this book. And that's a bold statement to kick a book off with, because he's all about science, and he's all about the what I call the petri dish of like testing things and going through the processes of scientific law, right? But he does tend to move into a more spiritual and woo-woo belief system, as well as a physical, experiential part of meditation. And the book becomes a big part of that. So for a book that was quite uncomfortable for me to read as an athlete, because I do meditations in a different way, this book put me out of my comfort zone and really stretched me. And for that, I love Joe and I want to read more of his work, but this was a heavy hitter to dive straight into one of his books. And everyone I talk to says, man, Joe Dispenza, great book. So I'm trying to see from their perspective. And I think I found it. I really do feel like I found what he was coming at. And I also love the three tiers deep of scientific of explanation and what is that called? Case studies. And I felt like he missed the ball on getting deeper than he could have. So I give this book a solid 7.0 as well. I'm pretty average on my sevens today, but I gave this book a great 7 due to those factors. I'm going to save Ian for last on this one again, because I'm really excited. But Willie, what did you rate Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural?
Yeah, Supernatural. I've been in the middle. I know Ian's feelings. I'm in the middle of kind of both on this one, because the pros with it was interesting, very thought-provoking ideas. When it comes to like personal growth and a motivational tone, it was very encouraging. And it was very also on the kind of the con side of it was repetitive. It was hard to stay engaged as it just continued to repeat over and over what he was saying. And then too much. It seemed like there was story cases and more of talking about it than what I saw as like actual evidence of it. But probably the biggest thing is as the repetitiveness went, it was overcomplicated with the ideas of something that seemed so simple. And maybe that was just me as I was reading it. But for this one, I would give Becoming Supernatural, putting all those together, 4.5.
4.5. Awesome. Yeah, you bring up a good point. It really was repetitive, but didn't go, like I said, like it didn't go just one more study deeper. Like comparing this to Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, where he goes 3 studies deep and shares the not only the results, but he shares the results over time, like a 10-year study type thing. And that's why I think like Outliers is a standalone out there outlier of high score potential, because just kind of an interesting concept. But hands down to Joe Dispenza. Okay, drum roll please. Let's go to Ian Stermer, who absolutely blanked this book.
So the reason he keeps saying this, I've kind of made this a running joke, is we talked about this book. This is a difficult book, and I'm going to say this is the only book we've read that I made a conscious decision not to finish this book, and said, I don't even want to finish it, and just stopped. Now, like everything, there's good and bad. So first of all, yes, I'm the guy he talked about at the beginning that says my colleagues are going to hate me for writing this book. However, I'm not at all qualified to be one of his colleagues. He starts out with just the basic idea that we all have, mind over matter. Our mind can control things. And I am 100% there. I believe that we can be healed some ways through our mind power. I've seen people do amazing things through the power of their mind, in being able to go beyond what a normal human should be able to do. And I fully believe all of these things. And I understand and I love some of the scientific evidence he gives in the studies. But then he just like puts this big gap and jumps over here into what we refer to as the woo-woo thing. In one example, he's talking about, how you can focus yourself and achieve your goals. And then he tells this story about where he had this vision of himself being tortured in medieval Spain or something. I mean, okay, there's no connection here. You're suddenly just throwing out something. Now, I have my own spiritual beliefs, and I recognize other people are going to say, oh, that's woo, it doesn't make sense. But to me, there's a logical pattern. And there's a huge gap where science, understand, believe it, and then suddenly there's something else, which is like unrelated. It's, I'm trying to think of an example of it. It's like, talking about the ingredients for a pizza and then saying how great spaghetti is. We lose something in there. So for me, if I could have, torn out every 10th page when he jumps to that side, it would have been an incredible book and I would have loved it. But he lost the credibility for me because he went somewhere that I didn't see the book going. I'm going to give it higher than you guys thought. We joked beforehand about negative numbers, but I'm going to give it a 3 because there's some really good, valuable information in there that I loved. But he ruined it by these logical leaps or illogical leaps in my mind that took away from the rest. And maybe he brought it together in the end, but so much of it turned me off that I just literally did not want to read the rest of it. So 3 for the points that were good in it, and taking away 7 because the points that just I couldn't see it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Ian, for sharing that. And very interesting. And again, we don't want to dissuade our readers from reading it, but these are our personal opinions. And I totally vouch for what Ian says. I mean, I had a high expectation and I came in a lot lower than the expectations had blown it up to be. I'm probably going to pick up another book by Dr. Dispenza just to see if I kind of started with the wrong one, but I totally agree on many forms. So love it, guys. That's great. Let's move to the next section because we finished up this first quarter with a couple really great books. And by the way, if you guys are curious, the total score of that one was a 14.5, not our lowest and definitely not our highest. So I love it. Let's move over to our next book. It's a toss-up. Willie, choose a number between 1 and 2.
1.
Oh my gosh, that was a close one. Okay. We're going to start with The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And,
you know something funny? So I'm looking. I have on my screen right next to me the numbers in the spreadsheet too, and you're just like pick a number between 1 and 2, and I'm looking over there, and The Alchemist is the second one over the first one, and I'm like 1. And you're like, oh, right, let's do The Alchemist. I'm like, freaking John, what the heck?
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing over here. But hey, Willie, let's start with you. Really, this was a interesting book. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what is your score for The Alchemist?
Yes, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I really love this book. Like, I listen to this book at least once a year. I just love the story format. I love the story of the shepherd boy going after his own personal legend and the people he meets along the way and just the lessons that I get to apply into my life. And it's just a really good, again, story. I'm not huge. If you make a self-improvement book turn into a story, I know that I'm going to at least enjoy it to a good degree because I just love stories and storytelling. So with that, with The Alchemist, I'm going to give it just a solid 8. We'll do 8.1. We'll make it spicy. 8.1.
8.1 spicy. I like that. I love it. Thank you for that answer. Really great. Ian, what did you think about The Alchemist?
Okay, I'm going to make a comparison here with Who Moved My Cheese. Maybe if I was at a certain point in life, this would resonate more, but it didn't with me again. I kind of disagreed with some of the lessons that he was teaching in it, and I shouldn't say disagree, but they didn't fit my way of thinking for some things. And I know this is one of Willie's favorites, so I hate to give it a lower score. But I know our friendship might be over here, but
it's all right. I got one with the Brand New World. You get this one.
That's true. It was a fun story. There was nice things in it, but it just didn't resonate. I didn't find the lessons ones that were moving me forwards. I didn't see myself recommending this to somebody as they're struggling with their life. Nice storyline, though. I'm going to go a 6.
6. Love it. I love the solid numbers we choose to give on books we're confident about, and then the percentage differentials we give in decimals. I love it. I'm in between. I'm in between you guys, and without it seeming like I only give books 7s, I really just wanted you guys to know, like, this book shocked me because it was highly recommended to me by certain individuals who don't read the types of books that I read. And I was curious to jump in. This, to me, was building off of like the anticipation of like, I'm looking for a really great story in the world of personal growth and development outside of A Brave New World and a few others that we have read. And so I was really going down this rabbit hole of learning from story-based, fictional story-based experiences. And this book really, in a profound way, changed my life. And it goes without saying, like, the storyline, you do the entire journey just to find out that it resonated with my personal mantra that I've been sharing with the Champion Circle for the last few years, something that I discovered through my own personal meditations and my hardships that I've been going through. You guys know that I lost my mother a few years ago, and that I've gone through the therapy necessary to just recover from that. Anyways, long story short, this book just reminded me that everything you need is already with you. It's already inside you. And it doesn't mean that you have everything that you don't need God. It means you have everything you need to find what God has given you and the purpose that you truly desire and find. And it was like, boom, what a beautiful, I guess, like, reflection of who I am in my life. So I gave this book a solid 8.5. I loved the storyline, and that's pretty high for me because I'm an average giver, an average score giver. But 8.5 for me, it was a great book and one I'll continue to recommend to many, many people. So this book does not reach our... Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, I find it funny. You're just like, I'm in between Willie and Ian, but then give the highest score.
Yeah. In between on opinions, not score. This book does not breach our top 10, but it is a high-rated book, so we highly recommend you go and read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. By the way, one of the best author names yet in our entire author selection. So I'm ready to wrap this episode up, guys, with one more final book. And I actually purposefully saved this one for last because I am curious about the ratings, but I want to kick things off by saying I loved The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This was a book that I've read over and over and over again. And each time I read it, I still don't understand what the heck he's saying, but it's amazing. And I've had to like go to Cliff Notes. I've had to like look up summaries online. I've had to buy multiple versions of this book. I literally have 5 different copies, one with pictures, one with like puzzle piece games, and then another that's just like the various types of copies released over the last years. And then Barnes & Noble always does like a new year special cover edition of Art of War. Anyways, long story short, this book's great. I love this book. And we could have as a collective unit who review books from the perspective of let's just talk about the principles we're learning from these books and dive into them. The three of us could have talked about The Art of War probably every month this year. We would have gotten sick of it, but we could have pulled things out from just one paragraph on any page throughout the entire rest of this year. So I rated this book a solid 8 because I love the book. I highly recommend it, and I'm going to continue buying copies that I can give away or collect as collector's items, but a pretty high rating for me. Ian, what did you think of The Art of War?
This is a really difficult one because I'm going to make a comparison here to Mickey Mouse. Okay. Not saying like, not it's a Mickey Mouse kind of thing, but Mickey Mouse is cool. We all agree with that, right? We all love Mickey Mouse. Shake your head. Yes, John. For those of you on camera. Okay. But Mickey Mouse cartoons aren't necessarily that great. But there's this idea of Mickey Mouse that's a cultural icon. It makes us think of so many things. When I read The Art of War, it's like, yeah, there's a nugget here or there. The idea of it is so important. And it makes me think. It makes me look at what's going on in life. It expands how I'm seeing things. But the book itself, but it has such a great impact because it makes you think way beyond what the book is actually saying. So I'm trying to figure out, as far as reading the book and judging it by the actual book itself and the words written in it, it's a really low score. But the effect that it has when you start thinking about the idea behind something and putting it into your life, it becomes really, really important. So it's somewhere between a 3 and an 8, depending on how I look at this book. So I'm struggling, but I think the measure of a good book is how it affects your life. It's not necessarily how smooth the prose is or how clever an example is or something, but what will this do to affect your life in the future? And because of that and how effective it is there, I'm going to put it at an 8.
Awesome. Okay. I'm very interested. You undersold your rating through your description. I was like expecting lower, but that's really interesting.
I really wasn't sure what I was going to rate it until I said that number at the end.
And I love that you said that because that's what we want our readers to know. Like these ratings don't come pre-organized. Like we don't think about these before we show up. We contemplate, we review like Ian or like Willie's been doing. He's been looking up kind of reminders and synopsises and just kind of reminding himself about the books. But like we don't give these scores until Punchline. And boom, that was a huge surprise to me. So great job. Willie, the drum roll is set. Tell us about your experience with The Art of War and your final score.
Here we go. Good little sound effects that are on the side. We got to use those more. Those are pretty cool. Yes, The Art of War. Every time I read it, I take something out of it. Every single time. The flow of it kind of sucks because there's not really much of a flow. It's like if you were to take your notes app and every time you have an idea, put it into the notes app. And then after a year of doing it, creating a book from it, that would basically be kind of how the flow would be. It's a bunch of random ideas that, yes, have to all do with war and their own thing, but it's really just like boom, 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 and nothing like ties it together. As I think about how other books are and how I apply other books, I like the step by steps. You start with this, then this, then this, and then that helps you progress. And this book didn't give that. However, what it did, and as Ian said, the impact of it was that every time I read it, I get something out of it, and it makes me think and apply it to my life. And I've been trying to think about like, man, what score would I give it? And overall, even with the golden nuggets it does and the flow of it, I would say that this book for me, and it's lower than I thought I would initially put it, but I'd put it at a 5.
Put it at a 5. Awesome.
I'm getting the stink eye from Ian, but I'll put it at a 5.
I was almost thinking that at one point, like, do I average my good and bad, or do I, it's tough. And I could probably, like we said, we could discuss this book for a year, and I could discuss my rating for hours. So I'm going to stop.
Yeah, but I love the explanation that you gave, though, is that
Totally.
It felt like a 3, but impacted like an 8. But at the end of the day, what are books for? The books are for how they leave an impact on you. And by golly, if that is not just the truth of everything, it's like at the end of the day, it's how it impacts you. And for what Ian said before, big explosion.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop it. Go ahead, John.
I'll add just one more thing to that. I completely agree. And I'm glad we finished with this book because, boy, golly gee, guys, that book, it's frustrating because you're expecting a book. You're expecting a story. This is like a manual for how to win at war if you don't want to go to war. And it's also a manual for like historical references and context to what has worked for some of the top generals in the world. And I think about it from that perspective of like, okay, if I were to pick up the reading manual for going to war without having to go to war, that's the book I would pick up. And it has no flow. It has no congruency from chapter to chapter, but it is profound. So I started looking at it as like, okay, this is a mixture between like man-made poetry, scripture, teaching book, and also inspirational quotes. Like it draws you in, it frustrates you, but then it pulls you out with a holy cow, that was life changing, like so interesting. So yeah, what an interesting book. With those ratings top of mind, this book does stay within our top 20 list, and I'm proud of it. It was a great book, and I continue to read it just about every other year, and I do pick up a new copy every time Barnes & Noble comes out with one because it is just one of those classics you should have on your shelf. So last comments and final ratings just of the books we talked about that from this first quarter of 2026 and wrapping up kind of our last quarter last year. What are some of your thoughts on this group of books, and anything else you want to leave our listeners with on this episode as we kind of wrap up our Rotten Tomatoes episode of just some great reads?
I'm looking at the list on the side, and out of the 6 books we did, you had Becoming Supernatural being for today the lowest one out of the 6 books, but still not the lowest overall. But then we got a new first place, which was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that's really cool to have something come up in first place. Of course, Outwitting the Devil is my 10 out of 10, and that's who I want to stay in first place. But if I had to give it to another book, 7 Habits would be it. And just over the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I've seen that it all comes down to just the timeless principles. That the ones that make the biggest impact are the ones that don't necessarily are trying to find something new, but it's something that has been around for a while. They're just telling new ways about old principles. And those for me seem to be the best type of books.
Yeah. Ian, anything you'd like to add? Thank you, Willie.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. And it's what are the ones that have that are timeless in their principles and but yet still can resonate today. I'll admit I struggle with things like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Groundbreaking book, but it seems so out of date that I've got to search to find something and fit it into life today. Unlike some other ones that might be old, that still resonate. I mean, Art of War, there's still pieces in there that really fit in today as nuggets for it. And did I blink at the wrong spot, John? I don't remember here. What was your number score for Art of War? Did you tell us that?
Yeah, Art of War for me was, I believe, let me go back to my screen.
Yeah,
I got an 8. Yeah, solid 8.
8. Okay. I heard your explanation. Maybe I blinked when you said 8. I was waiting to hear your number. I love that 7 Habits is the top one because it's a little bit more general and broader than some of the other books we read that focus on 1 or 2 specific points. I know this focused on 7 points, but there's a whole spectrum that it goes through and a pathway in 7 Habits. And I love that side of it. And I love to be able to talk about becoming supernatural because that, to me, also pointed out how a book can just, one point of a book can destroy the whole thing for me when it goes outside of, I don't want to say my comfort zone, but it was beyond just, I feel beyond my comfort zone. But we'll have some private discussions on Brave New World later on because that is just a really important book in human society, I believe. But maybe not written in a way that's easy to catch unless you really study the history of communism and put it in perspective. So anyway, read all of these books. There's something to gain, and each of these have lessons to change our lives.
Yeah, I look forward to reviewing and rereading any and all of these books because, again, different times, different places. But I'll wrap up my thoughts and I'll turn it back over to Willie to close out this awesome episode. But my final thoughts today are when it comes down to it, I have been so happy to pick up an organized reading schedule and to be a part of a program like this where the three of us talk about various books, and to just grab a bunch of cream of the crop type books is just a powerful experience. And Willie, you started off this episode with something really cool, and you asked the question, John, what is your 10? Like, what's your best book? Because each of us have given high ratings on certain books, and I'll just lead off with this. Books that we have not reviewed and read on this show yet have been, my classical favorite, the one that changed my life for forever. Think and Grow Rich, and a few other books that have just not made it quite yet to our ratings and review system. But I just there's a few out there that are still unmarked, unchecked, and unrated that I can't wait to put into play with this. And I just wanted to say thank you guys for the opportunity, and what a great set of books we've just read, and I look forward to more.
Amen to that. Wow, I just love Rotten Tomatoes. I love our Rotten Tomatoes. It just helps us review what books we've done, and I'm excited for the next one that we'll have in the next coming months after we go through several books. So with that, champions, that wraps up this episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcasting platform, as well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where it'll have all the links to our podcast, our socials, events that are going on, and a webinar that's coming up, and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, continue to be the champion in your life. Continue to read books as they truly inspire us. And always remember that your life isn't up for a review. So stop living like it is. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.